My boys, what's the deal, y'all? Welcome back to another video. We back with another reaction video, man. We here with the what's this controversial, most weird ending movies of all time. So we about to see what this is hitting on. But before we get into the video, please like, subscribe to the channel. If you guys are new, it means a lot to me. Without further ado, let's jump into it.
It's been said that you can't please everyone all of the time. That's especially true for movie endings. Hollywood history is full of shocking finales that have left people confused, made moviegoers mad, or sparked fierce debate between critics. From decades-old films to modern-day blockbusters, here are some of the most controversial movie endings of all time. Major spoilers ahead, obviously. Monty Python's Life of Brian. Want a surefire way to stir up controversy? Make a movie about Jesus. It worked for Mel Gibson, Martin Scorsese, and of course Monty Python. Okay, technically Life of Brian isn't about Jesus at all. It's about a guy named Brian who gets mistaken for a messiah and ends up getting crucified. And while our reluctant hero dies a painful death, all the guys hanging on crosses around him launch into an upbeat musical number.
Bro, all y'all about to die on the cross, bro.
Needless to say,
Bruh, all y'all Jesus
made some people pretty upset. Protesters sang hymns outside movie theaters, and the film was banned in some countries for decades. The Catholic Church jumped in and made up their own rating.
Bro, they
for
banned this movie?
A C for condemned. Harsh. But despite the notoriety, or more likely because of it, Life of
why you throw
Brian
the
has
stick
since
like that?
become a comedy classic. Titanic.
Bro, did he just jump?
Sure, Titanic is still the second highest grossing
Bro, I
movie
never
of all
seen
time,
this movie.
But those billions of dollars couldn't save the film from endless scrutiny. According to countless fans across the world, the ending of Titanic is nothing short of a disaster. After the boat goes down, Jack and Rose find themselves stuck in the freezing cold waters of the Atlantic. Then Jack freezes to death. It's this scene that sparked most of the outrage. Wasn't there room on that piece of wood for the both of them?
He just froze like right there or something?
That in 2012, Mythbusters dedicated an entire episode to discovering
Bro,
the
what year
answer.
did Titanic happen?
With the help of director James Cameron, they determined that if Rose had just tied her life jacket to the underside of the door, there would have been enough buoyancy to hold them both. But Cameron doesn't buy into that argument, saying, "The script says Jack dies. He has to die. Maybe we screwed up. The board should have been a tiny bit smaller, but the dude's going down." In other words, true love is a lie and you should never hope for happiness. Jeez, Cameron.
Dang, my boy.
Blade
That's
Runner.
tough.
By this point, there are 7 different versions of Blade Runner available to watch. And thanks to all that tinkering, sci-fi fans have spent countless hours discussing whether or not Rick Deckard is actually a replicant. So, what's the correct answer? Well, if you go by the original ending, it's a straightforward no. The theatrical cut ends on an upbeat note, with Deckard and his robotic ladylove escaping into the mountains to live a long and happy life. However, that all changed with the director's cut. That's the version in which Scott added Deckard's unicorn dream and cut the happy Hollywood ending. This
Bro, look
time
at that
around,
horse.
the film ends with our protagonist finding Gaff's origami message, implying the cop knows what Deckard dreams about, because Deckard's memories are implants, thus making him a replicant. Ever since, people have argued about Deckard's true nature. Even Ridley Scott and Harrison Ford don't agree. The director firmly believes Deckard is a machine, while the actor fought to keep his character 100% human.
So I resisted the idea of being a replicant. I suppose,
come on,
as a
he
replicant
said.
would.
So
That settles it then. Or does it? The Mist. The ending of The Mist is one of the bleakest finales ever put to film.
Bro, this movie old right here, ain't it? What year was this?
The Mist focuses on a group of New Englanders trapped in a grocery store by a mysterious fog. The titular mist is full of horrifying monsters. But things aren't so great inside the store either. Once people start getting sacrificed, Thomas Jane's character, David Drayton, makes a break
they
for
was
freedom
killing
with a
people
small
in that
band of
movie?
survivors. But unfortunately, there's no happy ending
Bro,
here.
look, what kind
Lost
of
in the mist
muster
with
is
no
that?
hope in sight, David performs a mercy killing to spare his friends and his own son from the oncoming creatures. And then, just a few painful seconds later, a group of army guys show up to save the day and look for survivors. Yeah, it's bleak, grim, and completely different from Stephen King's novella. But the author loved Darabont twist, saying, "Frank wrote a new ending that I loved. It is the most shocking ending ever."
According to Kamala Harris, the economy is fixed.
We had to recover as an economy, and we have done that.
Really?
Watchmen. Even though Alan Moore's Watchmen is widely considered the greatest graphic novel ever written, it took quite a while to get a movie adaptation up on the silver screen. At one point, Terry Gilliam took a crack at the material, but when that didn't pan out, it eventually fell to Zack Snyder to get the thing made. The result was a film that was pretty faithful to the book, except for one giant major change. In Moore's original story, the villainous Ozymandias destroys New York with a mocked-up alien squid. The arrival of the monster convinces the world's superpowers that extraterrestrials are going to attack, forcing the US and the USSR to put aside their differences and band together in order to face the otherworldly foe. However, Snyder totally dropped the
I don't know why they
Instead,
always
Ozymandias
change
blows
it,
up
you
New
know?
York and
Leave it
frames
the
the
same.
omnipotent
If it,
Dr.
especially if the
Manhattan,
original
tricking
story
America
like
and
better,
the
you
Soviet
know?
Union into becoming
Like
friends
that
to
only
defeat
makes
the
sense
naked
to
blue
keep it like
superhero.
that, right?
Millions of lives were suddenly ended
Yeah. Oh, big
in an act of
President
evil
Nixon.
perpetrated by Dr. Manhattan himself.
Snyder has since said that the squid was cut out so more time could be spent building the characters of Manhattan and Rorschach. For his part, he's also acknowledged that the altered ending was the biggest knock against the movie. So there's that. The Dark
Y'all
Knight
see how my
Rises.
boy legs crossed
Christopher
like that?
Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy was a
Like,
game
bro.
changer for superhero movies, and as the final film in the series, The Dark Knight Rises had a lot to live up to. But instead of diving headfirst into the darkness, the third Nolan film ended on a much happier note, with the Caped Crusader saving Gotham from a nuclear bomb before giving up his vigilante ways to travel the world with Selina Kyle. As a result, many fans wondered if this was some sort of Inception-style dream sequence. After all, the scene plays out exactly like a fantasy described by Alfred earlier in the film.
I had this fantasy.
Tuh. I had this
Look
fantasy.
across the table,
Oh, Alfred!
and I'd see you there with a wife.
Christian Bale, on the other hand, insists Batman's happy ending is completely real.
My personal opinion is, no, it was not a dream. That was for real.
Some people thought the
That-
movie should have gone
no,
in
it
a
was
more
not a
depressing
dream.
direction by
That
killing
was
the
for real.
superhero, while others were glad that
Oh,
Bruce Wayne
bang!
finally got a happy ending. And really, we shouldn't have been surprised by the film's upbeat finale because, as Harvey Dent once explained it,
The night is darkest just before the dawn.
this was the dawn
Boy,
audiences
you
have
got
been
a
promised.
pimple on your chin.
The Grey. Set in Alaska, The Grey follows a hunter named John Ottaway, played by Liam Neeson, who's stranded in the wilderness with a group of oil workers. While he starts the movie suicidal, Ottaway slowly regains the will to live, which is too bad since he winds up in the middle of a wolf den. Ready to fight, Ottaway tapes a knife and broken bottles to his hand. But before the final confrontation, the screen cuts to black. Movie over.
Tuh.
Audiences were sharply divided. Some people thought the ending was perfect, while others felt cheated. As for director Joe Carnahan, he cut the wolf fighting finale because the film had already reached its emotional conclusion, and he also worried that the sight of CG canines might ruin the scene. However, Carnahan admits the promotional material was the enemy of the film in a lot of ways. I guess it created a promise that people felt the movie didn't live up to. Snowpiercer. Directed by Bong Joon-ho, Snowpiercer is set in the middle of a wintry post-apocalypse, with the last of humanity on a train that travels around the world. Unfortunately,
It's a lot of these
living
movies I
conditions
never
aren't
saw.
a picture of equality.
So, it's
Folks
like-
on the tail end
like,
are
that
treated
is
like
crazy
prisoners,
that-
while
that
the
these
people in the
movies
front
ending
live
weird like
kings.
that.
So a group of rebels led by Curtis, played by Chris Evans, fights their way up to the front of the train, hoping to overthrow the head honchos. But when Curtis makes his way into the engine, he learns the train operates using child slave labor. Realizing the entire system is corrupt and impossible to save, Curtis destroys the train, possibly killing everyone on board, except for two kids. Emerging from the rubble, a teenage girl and a young boy find themselves Adam and Eve of a frozen world, and as they step into the snow, they see a polar bear, a sign the world is thawing out and maybe
got a
there's
random
hope after
polar bear.
all.
I'm like, what
that's
up, cuz?
Bong Joon-ho
Emmy?
intended
You
anyway,
good?
saying it's a very hopeful ending. Those two kids will spread the human race. But many people had trouble getting past certain plot issues. As plenty of critics have pointed out, those two kids have lived their entire lives on the train, so they'd have no hope of surviving the frigid wasteland.
Part look
That
like
is, if that
Avatar:
big
The
old
Last
bear
Airbender.
didn't eat them, he's
I ain't
gonna be
over
pretty
there.
hungry. Passengers. On paper, Passengers should have been one of the biggest blockbusters of 2016. It starred Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence, two of the biggest stars in the business, and it was based on a screenplay that many hailed as one of the best scripts in Hollywood. But the sci-fi flick was a flop, grossing $100 million domestically on a $110 million budget. So what went so terribly wrong about Passengers? Well, moviegoers were expecting to see a story about two beautiful people who accidentally wake up from suspended animation while traveling to a new planet, unable to return to their pods.
And what
the
happened?
two are fated to spend their lives together on the spaceship. But the trailers were more than slightly misleading. As it turns out, Chris Pratt's character Jim wakes up after his pod malfunctions. Unwilling to spend his life alone, he selfishly releases Jennifer Lawrence's character Aurora against her will. Even the robot bartender was surprised.
Who's the lovely lady?
This is Aurora.
Aurora.
Admittedly, the movie could have done something interesting with this premise, but instead of dealing with Jim's decision in a mature, complex way, the filmmakers have Aurora fall in love with the guy and decide to spend her life with him, even though he's essentially kidnapped and murdered her. When the rest of the passengers wake up nearly 90 years later, they find out that Jim and Aurora lived a long, happy life and grew a bunch of trees on their spaceship. As a result, critics hit the movie hard, and audiences decided to stay away from theaters. Thanks for watching.
Dang.
Click the loop icon.
Staying away from theaters is crazy, bro. Okay. Dang. But you guys comment down below, what do you think of this, man? If you saw any of these movies, what do you think of the ending of these movies? Only movie on here that I saw was Batman. I'm sorry. I ain't see nothing else. So, I mean, I seen like previews for a lot of movies, but it's a lot I didn't see. I don't remember The Mist either. I think I did see that, or I'm thinking of Twister. I don't know. You know, they the same thing. But yeah, you guys comment down below if you agree with the ending of these movies or if you don't. Which movies was your favorite and which ones that you just felt was just off, you know? But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. And I will see you guys in the next one.